question I often get asked is how to overcome fear, whether it's a fear of heights, a fear of flipping, or even just trying something new. I'm going to explain how we can come to understand our fears and 6 steps you can take to help you conquer your own fears. Now, I'm not an expert of psychology or science when it comes to fear, but I know fear very well through personal experience. Fears are a little bit different for everyone, but there are underlying causes of fears that we can all relate to. I grew up with a fear of heights, a fear of drowning, fear of spiders, and a fear of flipping upside down. Kind of strange considering what I do for a living. Good thing these fears don't affect me nearly as much as they used to. So where did these fears come from? Well, I could fall off of something high and get injured, or die. I could drown underwater, get bit by a spider, and I could land on my head doing a flip. All of them fears because of the reality that there is potential danger in them. The first thing I want you to understand about fear is that fear isn't bad. It's a defense mechanism our mind uses to help us recognize potential dangers and prevent injuries from happening to us. So fear is an important tool to help us stay safe, but at what cost? If we lived our entire lives based around fear, well then we would never leave the house because anything could happen. So although fear is important to avoid danger, if we give fear too much power, then we can't live our life and life becomes meaningless. Life is all about taking calculated risks to progress and gain experience. Every time you get into a car, you are taking a calculated risk that you could get in a car accident. But the risk is small enough that it is worth it to you because of how much more you can get done with the convenience and speed of a car. So if there's a risk in dying just from driving a car on the road, why aren't there more people afraid of driving in cars? The second thing I want you to understand about fear is it doesn't actually exist. It's not a substance, nor is it tangible. It's simply the neuron connections in the brain processing things a certain way to cause us to avoid or run away from things. In more simple terms, it's your imagination. Fear doesn't quantify something actually happening. You may have a fear of heights because of the risk of falling, but take that risk away, like a roller coaster ride, and some people still have that fear of being up high. Because of the nature of fear, overcoming fear requires a disciplined mind, the ability to let go of your imaginations and just let it go. Because reality is, if you know you can do something, but you still have fear stopping you from doing it, then your fear is only there because your imagination is creating an idea of something that doesn't actually exist. When I was young and had a fear of heights, I had the opportunity to climb a beautiful cliff called Angel's Landing. And even with that fear of heights, I experienced this feeling of majesty and beauty being able to be up there, and immediately I knew I wanted to conquer my fear of heights so that I could have experiences like that more often. Over the years, one by one, I started conquering my fears. It's not like I had to, but I didn't ever want to feel limited because of my fears. Before I even got into parkour, I was climbing tall structures and mountains to become familiar and comfortable with the height. I knew as long as I was only doing things within my limits, there was no need to be afraid of heights. One method that helped me with heights was to look at things the way they are. Often people afraid of heights get vertigo when looking down on something very high. So on top of a building, when I look down, I don't see a distance I could fall from. I envision that the ground is simply a wall just 50 feet away from me. With that adjustment of perspective, my fear of heights was completely gone. But keep in mind, I still maintain a little bit of fear of falling from height, and that's what keeps me from doing things that are outside of my ability when on tall structures. For each of my other fears, I began looking for experiences to help me overcome them. I spent more time underwater, holding my breath, knowing I could just rise to the surface if anything went wrong. Spiders I knew weren't deadly, I would let crawl on my hand because I knew if it did bite me, the effect would only be similar to that of a mosquito bite. With my fear of flipping upside down, I just started practicing flips on a trampoline and onto mattresses and other padding, and took steps to get more comfortable with that feeling through practice and a safe environment. Overcoming all of these fears required research to know the real dangers involved, and then testing my comfort with those fears through as safe of an environment as possible and progressing from there. Consider this as an example. Statistically, if you drive 2,000 miles in a car, you are more likely to die than one jump out of an airplane parachuting. And consider how many thousands of miles we drive every year, and yet many people are still afraid of jumping out of an airplane. Let knowledge of the situation be what helps you decide what to do, not fear. Whether it's learning a trick or trying something new, here are steps you can take to help you overcome your fear. Step 1. Ask yourself why. Why do you want to do this? What will you be missing out on if you don't? Is the amount of risk involved worth the desired outcome? This step is to ensure that you aren't doing something because of recklessness, but that you truly understand why you are doing something. If you don't have a good enough of a reason, maybe there's no reason to do it at all. Step 2. Calculate the risk. Determine the risk involved and research so you can be knowledgeable and find ways to create the environment to be as safe as possible to minimize the risk. For example, when learning a new trick, is there a gymnastics gym available to learn this trick safely into a foam pit? Or do you have a friend who can help spot you? These will help dampen your fears. Step 3. Adjust your perspective. Is there any way you can look at the situation in a different light for it to seem more normal, like a day-to-day activity? Is it the fear of going upside down in a flip? If you can already do handstands, you have already done something where you go upside down. Use that same feeling of something you are comfortable with and apply it to this next trick you are about to learn. Step 4. Meditate. Envision yourself going through the motions over and over again. Don't ever let the thought of messing up or failing slip into your mind. It has been proven that thinking about performance and meditating on it is a powerful way for athletes to perform better and more successfully. Step 5. Accept possibilities. Accept the fact that you might fall and be okay with it. Sometimes before I learn a new trick, I will fall on purpose to realize that falling isn't as bad as I thought. Even pain is relative. Someone who experiences pain more often is going to be less traumatized by it when it happens, and suddenly the fear of pain isn't the issue anymore. Personally for me, if the only risk involved doing a trick is getting scrapes or bruises, then I have no worries because those types of injuries won't prevent me from doing parkour training. Step 6. Practice. Like with anything, learning to overcome fear takes practice. Start with small things that push your comfort zone a little bit until you feel comfortable with it, then slowly push yourself more and more. Eventually, as you practice overcoming fears, even if they are small fears, you will become better at overcoming fears. These are basic steps that can be adjusted and experimented with to help you overcome fear. I found different steps work better with different types of fears, so figure out what causes your fears and mental blocks and practice different ways of overcoming them. Choose now the fears you want to overcome so that you can gain the experiences and the accomplishments you may be missing out on. Also remember to be safe. Overcoming fear isn't about being crazy or reckless. It's about calculating and being in control of your mind and body.